Hello, my crafty friends. Welcome. I'm going to create some cards using some crafty goodies from the Not Too Shabby Shop. These are all of the products from their quarterly release, and as of today, February 15th, they are available at the Not Too Shabby Shop's online store. This new release is called Cottage Charm, and let me give you a look at what products I'm going to be working with today, starting with one of two stamp and die sets. This first set is called Good Morning, and look at all of the darling images. Got birds and teacups and very cute sentiments. And then this set of stamps and dies is called Cup of Tea. You get more birds and cups and sentiments. So this is just a fun one for spring, but really you can use these all year round. Next up is a background stamp. It is a 6x6 stamp. I'm so excited for this one. It's just lovely. It's called Cherry Blossom Background. I love a good background stamp, so I'm excited to use that. And then there are a couple of pads of paper. Let's start off with this one. It's called Beautiful Blossoms, and it's very springy. Let me open this up. I'm going to peel off the sticker, and it has a lot of beautiful cherry blossom patterns. Let me flip through this for you. It's a very heavyweight, glossy cardstock. There's a lot of different background colors to these patterns, and lots of images that coordinate with the ephemera pack that I'm going to show you in just a moment. This is a 6x6 inch pad, and there are 12 different designs. So I'll show you the ephemera that coordinates with that in just a moment, but let me show you the next paper pad. This one's called Simply Spring. And this one is really fun as well. You get lots of floral images, but then you get some cute little critter images as well. And in this pad, you get 24 designs, and again, it's 6x6. So next up is something really sparkly and pretty. These are enamel dots, but they're called Cherry Blossom Spring Cottage enamel dots. And now I'm just going to kind of push things aside and give you a glimpse at the ephemera. Let's start out with the Simply Spring ephemera that coordinates with the pad that you see above it. I'll speed this up so that we can quickly go through these images. These are very heavyweight images like the pattern paper. And I just love the soft colors of these. I'm going to use my little tiered trays to contain all of these. I've been loving these little trays, and they are stackable. Now for the second pack, and again, this one coordinates with the Beautiful Blossoms pad of paper. I love cherry blossoms, and there's so many beautiful florals in this one. And you get more teacups and teapots. Lots of really pretty images. I'll put these in the second tier. I'm going to be doing something a little different with these products today. I'm going to create an ephemera card and then use the same design to create a stamped card. And we'll see which card we like better. I'm starting off with the ephemera card. Ephemera cards are really fabulous because you can whip up something really fast, and they just look beautiful when you have quality ephemera and pattern paper like these. The only stamp I am going to use is a sentiment stamp. The ephemera packs didn't come with sentiments this time. I just want to stamp the hello on this one. I'm going to cover it up with a piece of yellow tape and stamp the hello on one of the ephemera pieces, this little rectangle. It's stamped out very light, and at first I was like, oh, I don't know, I think I'm going to have to redo this. Then it just kind of meshed really well with the card that I'm designing. So I'm going to hang on to that. I'm using some gold thread, and I'm going to put this behind the picture ephemera piece. I put some foam squares behind the picture. I'm just going to pick up this thread with the foam squares. And then I'll make sure that the ends are taped down as well. I also cut out a piece of vellum with an arch die. This piece of vellum just helps to soften the pattern behind the ephemera pieces so that the ephemera stands out a little bit more. Next, I'm going to glue in some leaves and a flower. And I know it's going behind the picture, but I'm just making this super easy. If you wanted, you could cut a little slit in the picture and actually stick them so it looks like they're inside. I'm just going to put these behind the picture. I'm going to add one more sprig on the right. I will cut this down so it's a little bit shorter. It kind of gets stuck behind the foam square that I have there. So let's go ahead and glue down the hello sentiment. And next, I'll glue down the picture and the flowers. I'm going to put the glue just behind the ephemera so that you don't see it from behind this paper, the vellum. Next, I popped up a bird with more foam squares. I'll add one more ephemera piece up at the top, this pretty little butterfly. And then I'm going to add some of the sparkly enamel dots. These match beautifully with the ephemera and the pattern paper. So I like to put 3 different sizes around my card panel. I'll give you a close-up look at this finished card. I love how this one turned out. It's so soft and subtle and pretty. And it was really fast to put together. But yet I know someone's really going to appreciate this when I send it out into the mail. I also decorated the inside with leftover pattern paper and more ephemera pieces. Okay, for card number 2, I'm using the exact same design, but most everything is going to be stamped. So I'm using the stamp set that is called Good Morning. I'm stamping out this water picture, as well as a few of the smaller images. I'll stamp out the feather and the flower and the butterfly. I'm using some VersaFine Onyx black ink. I'll also stamp out the sentiment, the complete sentiment this time that says, "Hello, sweet friend." I was going to color them in with Copic markers, but with the VersaFine Onyx black ink, the Copic markers will smear, so I ended up using colored pencils. I used the coordinating dies to cut these out. Now I can start putting my card together. It's really fun to stamp all of the images in your stamp sets and just color them when you have some free time, when you're watching a show or something. And then they kind of act like ephemera. You can just quickly put a card together if you prefer the stamped images. So I'm using a piece of pattern paper. This one is from the Simply Spring. And I'm going to pop up the water pitcher. I'm using another piece of vellum, like I did on the first card. This time I'm using some silver thread behind the water pitcher. And I can just attach this at the bottom of the vellum arch. I'll pop up the flowers for the pitcher as well. Then I'll I didn't have a stamped leaf sprig, so I'm just going to use the feather. I'll center this in between the flowers. I love making springtime cards. It just feels like a relief that we're finally getting toward the warmer weather. I decided to pop up the sentiment as well, and I'll put that under the water pitcher. And again, I'm going to put to glue just behind the images so that you don't see it from behind the vellum. I put some foam pieces behind the bird, and I'm just going to put that in the same exact place to the side of the sentiment and the water picture. And then for the butterfly, this one's a little bit larger than the ephemera piece butterfly. I'll add more of the sparkly enamel dots. I love this dark burgundy color. It matched really well with the images that I colored in. And then let me give you a close-up look at card number 2. So what do you think? Do you like the ephemera card or the stamped images card? I also decorated the inside of this one just with more ephemera pieces and pattern paper, and I forgot to show you there. I'm sorry about that. It's very similar to the first one. So let's create another set of cards. One will be ephemera and one will be stamped images. This time we'll start with the stamped card, but I wanted to find a piece of patterned paper that would be similar to my background stamp, the cherry blossoms background. And this one on the left looks so pretty and watercolory. I'm going to stamp the background onto a piece of light pink cardstock. And I'm going to use some Copic-friendly or alcohol-friendly ink to stamp this with. Just using my extreme black ink from My Favorite Things. I did stamp that up several times, but I just showed one stamping. Isn't that beautiful? I'll take this out of my MISTI, and I'm going to color most of this off camera. It did take quite a while, but it was really fun to do. I found some pink markers that were similar to the piece of pattern paper on the left. I'm just going to start coloring them in. Nothing says spring quite like cherry blossoms. The markers I'm using are, the darker one is RV17, a deep magenta, and the lighter one is RV55, which is hollyhock. And then I'm going to bring in a green for the leaves and a brown for the branches. I'm not bringing the marker all the way to the edges of the petals either. I'm just doing some very quick and easy coloring. Now that my background panel is done, and I'll show you that in just a minute, I'm going to stamp out my images. And this time I'm going to use the stamp set called Cup of Tea. I'll stamp out the teapot and one of the teacups, as well as the sentiments and some cherry blossoms. I'm going to have to stamp this out twice because I'll need an extra set of the sentiments for my ephemera card. And again, I'm using the extreme black ink, which is alcohol marker friendly. And I will be doing the coloring off camera. I just do some basic coloring. I'll use the coordinating dies to cut these out. I snipped them apart already, and I'll tape them in place really well so they don't shift. I'm going to cut this piece of paper in half so it's easier to run through my Platinum 6. Here are the images. Let me just pop these out. So using the Copic markers and even the Prismacolor pencils, your images are going to be darker than the ephemera, but I guess it's just it depends on how you color it in. You could color them in really softly as well. I really love to mix and match the ephemera and the stamped images as well. But for today's cards, we're just kind of keeping them separate. Here's the background that I colored in with my Copic markers. I'm going to add some peony ink just to the edges. This really adds a lot to this panel. I think it looks so pretty. This just makes it pop a little more. I'm not bringing it into the center because I want to preserve some of that light pink cardstock. This will help it look a little more like the painterly pattern paper that I showed you. I'm going to cut both of my background panels down so that they're a little bit smaller than my A2 sized cards. And here are both of them together. They're both really pretty. Let's put card number 3 together. I'll use some tape runner to attach my background to a piece of Barely Peach cardstock. It's just a little bit off-white. For my first 2 cards, of course, I used the arched vellum to showcase the pieces. This time I'm using a rectangle that I cut out using a scallop die at the top and the bottom. This is a piece of fern green cardstock. I'll glue my teapot down flat. And then the teacup, I'm going to pop up with some foam squares. I'll put it lower on the card so that it looks like it's in front of the teapot. The sentiment at the bottom says tea time. And then I'll have another sentiment above the teapot. This one is so cute. It says, "You're my cup of tea." And of course, I use the coordinating dies to cut those out. I'll put my flowers just above the teacup. And then I can glue this onto my top folding white card base. One of the cherry blossoms fell off. I'm going to reattach that with another dab of glue. And last, I'll add more of the sparkle enamel dots. This time I'm using the pale green ones. So again, this stamped card took significantly longer than my ephemera cards, but the process was really fun to do. Again, I decorated the inside of this card, and let me give you a close-up look. Instead of ephemera, I stamped out my image with some pink peony ink. For my last card, this is going to be the ephemera version of card number 3. I'll attach my pattern paper to the piece of Barely Peach cardstock again. And I have another rectangle that I cut out using the same scalloped die. And I'll put this kind of at the bottom of the card. This piece of wild berry cardstock really matches well with this piece of pattern paper I'm using. This is the scallop die I used. I'll link that in the description box if you're interested. This time the teacup or the teacups ephemera piece is going down flat, and it's going to be behind the teapot, which I popped up with foam squares. I found this cute bow in the Beautiful Blossoms ephemera shapes. Put that at the bottom of the teacups stack. And then I'm using the exact same sentiments in the exact same place. One goes at the bottom right. One goes just above the teapot. I love how the coordinating dies cuts these out. So cute. I'll use some light pink enamel dots this time. I just use my all-in-one tool. Pick these up. It's just easier than using my fingers. And now I can attach this to my card base. So let me give you a close-up look at the finished card. Aren't those ephemera pieces just elegant and pretty? And then here is a look at the inside. Very quick look. Sorry about that. So here are the 2 cards side by side. Let me know in the comments which cards are your favorite, the ephemera cards or the stamped images cards. I'll have all of the links to this Cottage charm release at the Not Too Shabby Shop listed in the description box. And when you click on my links, I get a little bit of a kickback at no extra expense to you, so I really appreciate it when you use my links. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you were inspired. Until next time, bye.